بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله حمدا والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear respected brothers and sisters. During the month of Ramadan, as much as we want to fast, we have to face reality, and at times there are certain individuals from amongst us, from within the community, that are unable to fast due to reasons which are beyond their control. For instance, someone may be very ill, someone may be very old, frail and weak, and for that reason they can't fast. As much as they would love to fast, and they were probably fasting throughout their entire life when they were capable of fasting, but now due to their illness or due to their fragile nature, their old age, they're unable to fast. So what does the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention in this regard? That's what we'll be looking at today, inshaAllah. But before we start, just a background to this verse that inshallah we will be looking at is very similar to, as an example, I'll give you another case, which is the hurma of alcohol, when wine was made haram and impermissible. The hukum for alcohol and wine to be impermissible was not revealed all at one go. There were certain stages where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses. As a matter of fact, it was 4 stages where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verse after verse and gave a little bit of period in between for them to start abstaining and staying away from khamr, wine and so forth. And eventually then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finally revealed the 4th hukum, which was to make it haram altogether. So the same thing happened with Ramadan, that the fasting, even though they would fast, for instance, on Ashura and so forth, it was only 1 day fast, so it wasn't so difficult on the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, on the people, the community. But eventually when Ramadan was going to be revealed and it was going to be an entire month of fasting, then definitely this is something that is not easy on an individual that has never fasted. And we all know when we were much younger, when we were children, when we began to fast, we didn't from the get-go started to fast an entire month. Our parents would ease us into Ramadan by asking us to fast half the day, 3/4 of the day, an entire day, a few days every Ramadan, something like this. And then eventually we got the hang of it, and then we started to fast complete days. So the same thing happened with the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, where they were eased into Ramadan, you could say. That the hukum of Ramadan was revealed, but they were given a little bit of leniency. And that's what the hadith speaks about. Let's look at the hadith inshallah, then we'll get into the masail of the hadith and the lessons derived from this. So Abu Layla radiallahu anh, Ibn Abu Layla radiallahu anh, he mentions حدثنا أصحاب محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نزل رمضان فشق عليهم فكان من أطعم كل يوم مسكينا ترك الصوم ممن يطيقه ورخص لهم في ذلك فنسخته وأن تصوموا خير لكم فأمروا بالصوم. So Ibn Abi Layla narrates that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they informed him that when the first fasting was prescribed, the fasting of Ramadan was prescribed to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and they could not tolerate, they could not endure it because it was a bit difficult for them. So what happened was, so that who fed a poor person every day of Ramadan did not fast, although he had the power to fast. So even though they had the energy, the strength to fast, but they were given that leniency and option that even if you don't want to fast, then you can pay fidya for each day that you don't fast in the month of Ramadan. And was permitted to do so, it was permissible. There was no harm, there was no sin on this. And then this order was cancelled by the verse that one tasumu khayrul lakum, and actually other narrations mention the entire verse of Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. If you read the entire verse till the end, it mentions there about the fidya and about having the strength to fast and whatnot. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly mentions in there that فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ, that whoever is in the month of Ramadan, they should fast. So later on, that when they were eased into the month of Ramadan, then the leniency was taken away from them. So to begin with, number one, as the muhaddithin and the scholars mention, that the leniency that was mentioned here, it clearly mentions in the hadith that this was then cancelled. The Sahaba clearly mentioned themselves that it was in the early stages, but then it was cancelled and they had to fast unless for a genuine reason they were unable to fast. So that's where we now look at fidya. In today's time, we don't have the leniency unless we have a genuine reason. And again, this is not a blanket ruling. It would be judged case by case. If you think you are one of those individuals or someone within your family, maybe it's your elderly parents or someone, that if you think they cannot fast due to their illness or due to their old age and fragile nature, whatever it may be, then you can consult with a scholar, and then with their advice, then they can pay fidya instead of fasting. But in terms of sickness, even you don't have to be old to be sick. A very young individual can also be sick. But then the risk assessment there will be that this young individual that is sick today, does it seem like that he may be able to recover from that sickness? And if that is the case, then he won't pay the fidya. What he will do is that today he will not fast, or this Ramadan he will not fast, but later on, maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever it may be, when he does recover from that sickness and illness, then he will keep the qada for the Ramadan, the fast of Ramadan that he could not keep earlier on in the past. But even if he's young and the sickness and illness is of such a nature from which he will unlikely recover, highly unlikely, he will recover from that sickness or illness, then in that case, even though he's young, he can still pay his fidya. So that's the number one issue that we need to remember, the prerequisite. That again, judged case by case, and then you can assess that will you keep the fast later on, or will you pay fidya. And then what is the fidya? What's the rate of that fidya that you will pay? The rate of the fidya is that, as mentioned in the hadith, that for each day you will feed one poor person 2 times a day. 2 meals, one poor person for the amount of days that you don't fast. So if you don't fast the entire month of Ramadan due to whatever genuine reason you have, then you will feed one person 30 days or 30 people 1 day each. 2 meals a day. And the calculation that the ulama have mentioned is that your fidya is the same rate as your sadaqatul fitr, zakatul fitr or fitrana. It's known by various names. It's also called sadaqatul fitr or zakatul fitr or fitrana, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing, whatever the rate is. So for instance, let's say as an example, the fitrana or sadaqatul fitr rate is $10. So for each day you will pay $10. For 30 days you will be paying $300. Okay, so that's the fidya that you will pay for each day that you are unable to fast, or whoever the individual is unable to fast. That's the rate that you will pay each day. Now the actual rate, I gave $10 as an example, but the actual rate of fitrana or sadaqatul fitr will be calculated in your own hometown, in your city, locally, because all of these rates are based on, as we will find out later on in the hadith of zakatul fitr, it's based on the staple foods of the time of the Prophet ﷺ, which was grains, dates, raisins and so forth. So whatever the rate of these grains, dates or raisins are in your hometown, in your locality, that's what will determine the rate in monetary terms, in dollars or whatever the currency may be. So that's why, like I said, that $10 was just as an example. But when you want to determine how much you will pay, then you will consult a local scholar of your area, of your city, and determine what is the actual rate based on the price of these staple foods in your city, and obviously the currency that you go by. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us to fast. And for those individuals that are unable to fast, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the deen very easy for us. And if there are those difficulties and hardships, then you don't have to fast. If you don't have that taqah, you don't have the capability, then you don't have to fast. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly mentions in the ayah, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. That Allah always wants ease for you, He doesn't want difficulty. So if you are unable to fast, then you have this option, and then you can pay your fidya for whichever days you are unable to fast. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us, those that are fasting and those that are unable to fast. May Allah accept and reward each and every one of us. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.